If we're bullish on gold, the market itself is telling us we're wrong. There are a few themes we like to talk about here at Capital Rev, and we like to talk about what's going on in the world in the context of those themes in order to demonstrate the practicality of our philosophy. Now, one of the themes is narrative, and I want to talk about narrative and the gold market and talk about why gold is such a terrible investment at the moment. Now, to make a confession up front, I was actually a bit of a gold precious metals bug myself. I bought a lot of precious metals, mostly silver, but a little bit of gold as well, because I too fell for the narrative that gold has to go up in price given what's going on in the world right now. I remember turning to the person beside me in the lineup for the first time I bought gold, and I said, "Our troubles are over, dude." He backed away slowly. But the point is, I'm now an apostate or a convert to the idea that gold is a silly investment. Now, there are a lot of problems with narrative investing. I've recommended Nate Silver's brilliant book, The Signal and the Noise, before, and I'll do so again. One of the problems with narrative investing is that it causes you to drown out the signal and pay more attention to the noise. The world is so big and there's so much information in it, you can't accommodate everything. It'd be like drinking out of a fire hose on full blast. You just can't accommodate it. And so what we do is we selectively choose information to pay attention to, and that creates our narrative. And the narrative we have can't change fast enough to accommodate a very fast changing world. So that's a huge problem. Another problem with narrative investing is that it leads to something called confirmation bias. Confirmation bias is our tendency to overweight information we receive that agrees with our prior view of the world and underweight information we receive that disagrees with our prior view of the world. And what we've found is that if people paid more attention to the disagreeable information, they wouldn't get themselves into so much trouble in things like the technology bubble or the late 1980s Japanese stock and real estate bubble and so on. This is a huge problem with narrative investing, and it's something we're going to be talking about again and again here at Capital Rev. Now, before getting into why I think gold is a silly investment, let's review the bullish case for it. A bullish case that everybody knows. And there's about 5 or 6 reasons why gold should be going up in price. One, obviously everybody in the world is trying to debase their currency, and that should be good for gold. 2, the United States recently came to the brink of a debt default, which should also be good for gold. The very dovish Janet Yellen was appointed, which suggests that there's no end in sight for quantitative easing. The Bank of Japan in particular has got the printing presses going like crazy. And it's not like the world's getting politically any less crazy, so that should be good for gold. And I think there's, those are the sort of narratives that people express constantly about why gold should be going up in price. So gold has all these bullish factors associated with it. It should be gold's time to shine, forgive the pun. But what we find is that gold is lagging in price. Okay, now in response to that, gold bugs that I'm still friends with have said, well, there's oftentimes a lag between aggressive monetary policy and inflation, asset price inflation, and general inflation in the economy. And that's true. I mean, Milton Friedman made the point very, very convincingly. The problem is that if that's true and everybody knows that, that should be causing gold to be bid up in price, and I don't see it happening. The other argument, my favorite argument, is that the paper price of gold is being manipulated. Now, this is either true or false. So if gold is being manipulated, and it's true that gold's being manipulated, that says to me that that's a market that's rigged. And I don't like to play in games that are rigged against me, so I'm not going to participate. And if the price of gold is not being manipulated, then the bullish case is not being borne out by price, and there's something else going on, and therefore I don't want to participate. So whatever side of the manipulated or not manipulated argument you choose, you by definition have to suggest that you don't want to participate. Both those things lead you to the conclusion, do not play in the gold market. Okay, so here's the crux of it. Our narratives, by definition, are imperfect proxies about what's going on in the world. We can't know everything. The world changes at a faster rate than our ability to keep up with it. For example, things that are happening in India right now really affect the gold price because India accounts for 25% of the physical demand for gold. And when the Indian government changes policies, as it did recently, the demand dries up, and that puts a monkey wrench into our narrative. That's just one example of how the bullish narrative isn't being accommodated or can't change fast enough. And so the best aggregate we have for truth is price. Now, you can claim that price is being manipulated, or you can claim that price sooner or later will vindicate your bullish thesis. That's a faith-based claim. That faith-based claim doesn't actually equal a good investment policy or a good investment philosophy. I don't want to allocate capital based on faith. I'd rather listen to the price mechanism. And that really gets to the crux of it. Narratives, by definition, are dangerous things. The gold market is one example of a narrative that we can't fully accommodate. If we're bullish on gold, the market itself is telling us we're wrong. And looking for excuses about why the market is wrong just does us more harm than good. And that's frequently what happens when people apply narratives to their investments. And so our attitude is don't use narratives to invest. So to sum up, I believe gold is a silly investment. I look forward to comments. Thank you very much for watching.